Meeting is in order. I do not see anyone here from the public for comments, so we will bypass that and go to the approval of the minutes. I think everyone has had a chance to look at the minutes that have been distributed. Are there any comments, questions, or changes that anyone has for the minutes? Hearing none, minutes are approved. Next item is the vouchers. Once again, they have been distributed. I think everyone has had a chance to look through the vouchers.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
we bought that flag for you right there.
That, I appreciate it.
And if you want to instill that
We'll,
now, it'd be a good
just
time.
take a brief sideline here. A guy down at the fitness center, a veteran who's pretty active in getting stuff done, was talking to me about flags. I've talked to Greg. He wants to have flags across the Veterans Bridge, but and we both appreciate, honor the flag and all of that. So when Greg and I were having a meeting, we'd both just seen this video of some lady up in, somewhere in the Northeast at a council meeting, a city council meeting.
Took a knee.
Who took a knee when they did the Pledge of Allegiance before the meeting, and she took a knee at the city council meeting. And we did not think well of that, and just in our discussions, we thought it would be nice to show a little patriotism and have a flag in our boardroom. If anyone wanted to put forth the idea that we do the Pledge of Allegiance, I would be open to that, or I don't think it's necessary at all. But I think we are all patriotic people here, and we do honor the flag, and so I'm glad to see it there.
We're glad it's here.
It's a nice
We're
flag,
for
too.
it.
100%.
Even has the yellow fringe, which comes from the old hair play, or I think it was.
That's all that's the dress flag.
So, with the vouchers, are there any questionable items or anything that needs to be adjusted? Hearing nothing, vouchers are approved as presented. Monthly report. Dudley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before you have the revenue and expense summary for July 2018, the first month of our fiscal year. The electric department made $349,000 net income, and the water department had a loss of $20,000. If you compare that to our forecast, I had projected $352,000 in the electric department, so we're $3,000 short of that. The expenses were more than we anticipated, but our margin of electric less power cost was less, so you net all that together and you're only $3,000 off. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, as I say. In the water department, I had expected a loss for the month because we had a lot of expense items going through this month. We had some serious pump repairs that were about $26,000. You may have noticed on the voucher list, but we're only $4,000 off the forecast. 1,500 less on the sales than I anticipated, and the sewer is quite a bit less. That mainly from the ACWA didn't use as much as they had in the past, you know. So that's our wholesale. That's our wholesale rate. So overall, though, both departments on track pretty good for the year. It's a good start, and hopefully we'll continue to trend that way. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman, unless there are any specific questions.
I'd wondered about the sewer, but you answered that. But then from a consumer standpoint, I was wondering what months are the sewer rates based on? I know it's how much water you use during some months
Right, right. It's, the winter months start, October, I believe, October through March. And so, those months will set your cap on usage, not price, but on usage. So if your highest for that period was 5,000 gallons, then that would be the highest you would be billed sewer in those summer months, is 5,000 gallons.
Okay.
But you would pay all of the water, whatever you
Right.
use.
Right.
Any other questions? Okay, we're ready for project status reports. Ernie is not here.
Oh, and I am so on top of this.
I don't know if we can do this without Ernie.
I don't either. Thankfully, we just have two projects that are ongoing, and both of these, you may recall, were board approved in June. And the Norris conversion, that's a year-long project, and it's part of a multi-year effort to modernize the electric system in Norris. The system was originally built by TVA back in the late 30s. So it was a three-phase system. TVA built it, so it's lasted a long time. It's a very veteran system, and we are now going through, and we've worked with the mayor and the city council, trying to help modernize that with aerial cable that we put in, because they were the first tree line city in the country. We are now a Tree Line USA utility. We work how we bore, we work how we trim, and we work how we put those lines through. They're very, very happy. Those folks really love their trees, and we were able to assist them as much as we could, threading through their town and pulling some of these lines in back behind their yards and things like that, and getting them out to the front of the street. It's worked very well, and we should be finish this project in June of next year. And the Briceville, that's proceeding well, and that ought to be done by the end of next month.
Great. For our new board member, you might explain what aerial cable is.
Aerial cable is relatively new, because if you look out on how we frame the pole, we're looking at a cross arm, and you've got phases that go across that. So aerial cable essentially does away with the cross arm, and it almost looks like a metal star that they all come on, and so the profile goes from 6, 7, 8 foot cross arm down to a very small profile, which helps in going through trees, because the tree, if it slaps it, that's where you get the blink, or you could work it out. So we put a lot of aerial cable up, especially when we're in a community that's if we can, that's tree lined. So it's worked very well. We haven't had, I guess we've been at this maybe 3 years in Norris. It could be longer, but I don't know of a tree incident in the 3 years since we started putting this up that's on this aerial cable. Very interesting stuff. Thank you for prolonging that, Dudley.
Well, that was very informative. Okay, we have one purchase order that needs approval, a piece of.
We're going to let the project status report for water.
Oh, okay, sorry about that.
I'll be quick, Mr. Chairman. We've got one project at the wastewater plant. This is the one we're doing in-house, and I've extended the time because we get to this project when we can, when we have crews that we can put on this. We've been very busy this summer, so that project is going according to budget, but the schedule has been extended. The next project is in the wastewater collection system. Next two projects. One is for upgrades to 2 major pump stations in Eagle Bend Industrial Park, and the third project is major upgrades to pumping stations in Mariner Point. There are 2 of each in each of these areas, and both of those projects are on schedule and on budget so far.
The first one, the completion schedule was revised, what was?
Yes, it was revised. This is the project that we're doing totally with in-house labor. And the major project was to get a large structure in operation. That large structure now has been revamped and is in operation. and what's remaining are the incidentals, and we just haven't gotten those completed yet, so I'll push that out a couple of months. That doesn't affect the cost at all.
Any other questions? Okay, now, we
Yes,
can
sir.
consider the purchase of a new piece of equipment, heavy equipment. Only one bidder, as I recall, looking at the thing.
This is our major bucket truck. It's a 70-footer. We're going from a 65 to a 70-foot bucket truck. They offered to give us $15,000 on a trade-in, which we didn't take because we feel like we can do much better. Dudley's working this gov.com. and it's govdeals.com, where they auction it off, and we've been very successful on that. But Altec and Terex it's Terex Telelec are two of our suppliers that we train on. We train on Altec. We train on what the old Telelec, which is part of this Terex unit, and we have been very successful with both. They're generally very, very close. And what we do is we selectively, through our purchasing policies, we go out for competitive sealed proposals. And we contacted these folks. We had three in 2015, but that company went bankrupt. So we're really dealing with these two major ones. There are some others, that are out there, but they're not industry standard for what we do. And when we send our boys, our linemen to train, all of the training facilities use either the Altec or the Terex. And Altec goes back to 1929 in Alabama, and it was originally founded by a fella named Skylander, and his son took it over in the 60s, late 60s, and now his grandson is now the current CEO, and they serve in over 100 countries. A big, very big organization. Terex started back in the 40s. They looked as a founder back into the 40s, and they have grown through mergers of other companies. And High Ranger was one of them. Telelec was another one, and they've all merged into this Terex Utilities. They got the last bid. They got the bid on the one that was before this. There was $3,000 difference between Altec and Terex. We're disappointed that they didn't bid. We have contacted them. They sent us a letter saying that they lost one bid by $3,000. They were successful with one bid by $3,000, but the last one they lost, and they felt like they offered a superior product, and they were concerned that we were just going low bid, which is not the case, because we evaluate all the bids, warranty, time of delivery, whatever the exceptions are on our proposal, which is pretty substantial. So given all of that, we're recommending, since this is such a specialty item, a custom-built item, it takes a year for them to deliver. We recommend Altec.
Is it normal, ongoing, that we only have two alternatives for this type of specialty equipment?
It depends on who's in business. Again, Altec's been in business the longest. Terex has been, through these mergers, been in business a very long time. The National, who was what we had in 2015, was the third on there. They're no longer in business. We've got, there's two called Duralift and Versalift, that we looked at, but they're so different than what we train on. We're pretty much zeroed in on these two manufacturers, and they're always very, very close in price. And let's see, what this is replacing is a 2008 model, and at that time, Altech bid $213,000 because it was a 65-foot and it didn't have a jib on it. This has a material jib associated with it. Altech bid $213,000, Terex bid $210,000. So they're very, very, very close to that. The bid before this, they were like $11,000 difference in price. And I don't know if Terex if they just didn't want to go through the process of bid. I mean, we've got a bid spec that's
Well, the price seems good. It's under what,
That's under
With the
what we
budget.
budgeted for.
Yeah.
Do we need a motion?
we do need a motion.
So moved.
There we go.
is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of accepting the Altech bid, say aye. All opposed, same sign.
No, I just have a question. On a major piece of equipment like this, do we replace it on some planned schedule, or do we wait till it gets old and?
Well, we do plan, but it's all part because we look at how many hours are on there. We have got 10 bucket trucks. We've got 4 line crews, and they're running at 55 feet in their buckets. We've got 3 material service trucks. They're running 45-foot booms in what they do. This is our Hoss. So we've gone from a 65-foot to a 70-foot, and then we get a material jib that brings up the transformers or brings up the cross arms. Now, they go higher than this. La Follette has a 100-foot boom, and I just can't justify with what we have. If we needed it, I would do it, but I've got an agreement with those folks. If we ever need it, we'll get it.
Now that, I'm not worrying about that. I was just curious as to whether we waited till it broke and replaced it. or
No,
we
no,
have
we look at
long-term
hours
plan.
and we also track all the maintenance. So we see as age comes into effect, we see the maintenance spike go up. And not only does it cost in maintenance, it's downtime that affects us the most.
Right.
So that's why we really, we almost have the spare, but the spare that we have is the big one. And that way we can direct it to whatever crew needs the bigger boom in order to get the work done.
Okay. Then, Greg, you have some new business?
I do have, well, just 2 things I wanted to bring to you. First, let me say, this afternoon, and I'm sorry I don't have copies, I just got this a couple hours ago. Apparently something, in response, I think, to the last city council meeting, when our board member did an excellent job, from what I understand, but we weren't able to see it because apparently they're behind on when they get their recordings up. But you shared with them, which I think does a great job representing the good, positive business opportunity that we have here for development and residential. And that the mayor also, apparently, according to the paper I read, was a little bit fluxed as to why there was so much negative pushback from some of these developers, given the facts that you presented. And as a result of that, he thought from the newspaper that he would get a group of folks together to look at this issue. That's where my understanding is. So I don't know if from that, some folks, because no one has talked to us at all, have put together what they call utility development standards, and they've got Clinton Utilities Board, Lenore City, Cleveland, Morristown, and Anderson County Water Authority. And then they tried to list the minimum build size, the depth in the digging and the development, build trenches and pipe and everything else that they did. And we've got an inside track to the chamber, and We were able to get this, an hour, well, 2 hours ago now. And we looked at it real quickly. I think that some of the questions that they're asking and some of the comparisons, are good. The problem is they're not accurate. So that's not good information. So I wanted to give you a heads up in case somebody starts bringing this kind of stuff around. You can say, hold on, because I don't know if you've got good information. Some of it is a year old from some of the other utilities, and some of it is just downright wrong, So hopefully, if there is some type of a group that we can do some comparisons on, then we'll be able to help them with factual information that's actually represented. We get our information, especially in water and sewer, right out of the, August 2018 annual utility rate survey, which we don't put together. This shows everybody. And what we saw in that PowerPoint that I did a couple of months ago absolutely is the facts. There's just, because we back it all up, This, unfortunately, they're either confused or they're putting,
Who put that together?
I have no idea, but we got it from the chamber. So something's running out somewhere, But I'm just trying to give you a heads up when they say, well, we really looked through that, and I'm telling you, we've got stuff that shows that Clinton is really at a disadvantage for development. Well, it is if the developers are supplied inaccurate information, or if they're going from a premise of something that they may have seen, 15 years ago. I don't know. Well, they used to do it over here, or they used to do it over there. I know Oak Ridge used to give you underground if you wanted to do that. Well, they did that until they about bankrupt themselves, and now they don't do that anymore. But gas used to be 28 cents a gallon too, so times have changed. And this is the most up-to-date, accurate information that I put against this. And when we do that, it's all changed. And some of it, again, is just completely wrong.
Are you getting your corrections back to the chamber, or?
Yes.
So, this would be a good time for me to, what transpired was, when I gave my committee report, I felt it was incumbent to pass that information because it was so powerful.
Right.
And so I provided color copies to the board members and, the city council members, and they were surprised at what they found. And so I think what started as sort of an organic conversation in city council, and what I want to seize upon is I wanted to, in conjunction with what was being discussed, bring CUB, City of Clinton, and Chamber in sort of a roundtable manner and allow.
Facts to surface.
Correct. And then I wanted to invite developers to attend. They wouldn't be necessarily a party to the roundtable discussion, but much like we open up the floor for anybody that has discussions, give them opportunity, and then that would allow me as a board member and as a city council member to tell any developer, say, hey, look, we had a roundtable discussion which was publicized, which you were specifically invited. You chose not to come. You choose not to come to our board meetings. You choose not to come to the council meetings. And that way, it sort of puts a lot of that back on them. So when they start talking what we do or don't do, it gives me some moral authority, if you will, to say, hey, look, we've offered you and afforded you times to come and air grievances if you have any, to put your inputs, and you've never been able to do it. But more importantly too, Greg, allow these other stakeholders to hear where we are, because I came in with an open mind, and a lot of what I previously thought was erroneous, and it's based off of facts. You can't dispute what facts are. You know, we can have opinions, but facts are facts, and they're stubborn things, and they don't change. And it gives, I think, CUB an opportunity to clear the decks with a lot of people in the room that need to hear it, because something gets lost in translation from you to me to council. You know, I'd like to bring everybody that has a stake in this, and I would like to include chamber, whether that's Rick or whether it's Tim or whoever is, you know, from economic development, whoever wants to be there, and then allow, and I think the person to lead that discussion for the board is sitting to my left, and just have an hour discussion. That's what I'm thinking. And have an agenda, have CUB have a voice in what that agenda looks like, so nobody's walking into some sort of ambush.
Right.
And it be a collaborative effort. And I think water and sewer is also extremely important to be represented. And that's sort of the rough draft, if you will, the 30,000 foot up. But there's nothing formally been, I think, decided upon. But I was going to bring it up tonight and get the board's thoughts and get your thoughts, get management's thoughts about the pros and cons of having a roundtable discussion.
I don't think there are cons.
Okay.
I don't think there are any cons, because good information is good information. And what you want to do is provide the generic, this is what we do. What it can, I think, what we found in the last meeting was that, well, I had a poll that I wanted to move there, and you all were going to charge me to do that, and, you know, I shouldn't do that. That's really a specific instance with a one person. But how we deal with development, what our fees, what our charges are, and they're really, really good, then that's a really good thing. What we do, what we require is industry standard. So it's not like there's not one thing that you go, wow, they're really, really strict on that. No. Although if all you had was this, you would think, my goodness, they're not good at all. Not so. I welcome that, however that comes up, because I assume it would make good sense, because part of the development is what the city requires in streets and curbings and sidewalks and things like that, the right-of-ways, what they go through for their permit structure, you know, what fees are associated with that. If our desire is to be more welcoming to housetops, which I think it's in our best interest to do that. If we're talking industry,
Right, which
I don't know if they're,
No, it's not industry.
Right.
It's residential development.
Right.
I said, look, when it comes to commercial development, that's so specific.
it is
And that,
unique.
And everybody understood that. Everybody understood that SL is different
Right.
than Carton Services.
Right.
So nobody had heartburn.
And
questions
Walmart
about
is
that.
different.
Correct.
But we need to have a door open and make it as easy as we can for people to develop residential, either their own house or a subdivision. Unless they are, we found, our experience shows, unless they are an experienced developer, they are frustrated time and time and time again. You don't have to go far to go over into South Clinton and look at the old golf course where that developer put a road right down the property, which excluded all of his lakefront property because the road was in the wrong place and he didn't build it to city specifications, and that just killed him. So how we do that, where we put our sewer lines, where we put our water lines, the required amount of space that we need, depending if it's single phase or if it's three phase, or what we do and what we require and why we require that. We are right on board with that, and the fees that we charge are either at the bottom or less than many.
so my intent as both a board member and as a city councilman is to get good information put forth in a very public way, because it just seems to be bubbling up, and I wanna swat this fly once and for all, and do so in a very public way that allows us to tell our story. Because again, it just, when I'm at Hoskins Drug Store eating with somebody and they say, hey, they picked their pet issue, I don't know, and by the time that I get back home, I'm just not the person really to answer those questions in a technical way. And what I want to do is have a forum where if they want to show up, and they're invited, but it gives you the opportunity to be the information and the knowledge that I just don't possess, and then I can refer back to this meeting down the road. Well, we had the meeting. Were you there when the management said and spoke to those issues?
So do you think that it's CUB exclusive?
No.
Or are they looking, if they're looking within the city limits?
I think what was discussed was we needed city officials there to address, because obviously there's certain things.
Codes and things like that?
Obviously, yeah. And then CUB there, and we would like the chamber there to help with promoting what comes out of this and correcting the type of errors that may be out there. And it's been kicked around. Well, should we ask some of the county? I think we should invite certain county stakeholders in so they can hear or have an opportunity.
Well, if they get to water and sewer outside of the city, then we're not there other than in Claxton, and that's very closed, you know.
And I think it's a work in progress, but what I wanted to do was, number one, make sure that if it was agreeable, that it was a collaborative effort, that an agenda be put into place, that the agenda be approved by all the parties. I didn't want any sort of trial by ambush. I wanted everybody prepared to talk about what was going to be on the agenda, and if something strays from the agenda, we're not going to talk about it, because I don't think that's fair.
We're not prepared for it.
Well, yeah, it's not fair. Now, if somebody asks you a question, do your best to field it, but with the sole purpose to really educate right now, educate our citizens, and educate not just our citizens, but our elected officials that may have their facts not straight. Because, you know, if this gets circulated, I want an opportunity to rebut that in a public manner. Not just sending it back to chamber. I want our body to be able to respectfully and articulate what our, because like you said, we have the truth's on our side, and we have good policies that engender growth. We're not going to subsidize development at the risk of the ratepayer, and that is a story that needs to be told, you know, and I support that.
We do too.
If I can add to what Zach's saying, and I agree with everything you're saying, I've heard a lot of things in the community about the wonderful things we do, and I'm putting me in there, we as a board and as a company. But every now and then, I'm hearing the same thing over and over again, and it's residential support by CUB. And if, you know, people are saying that based on the wrong information, they are perceiving that as accurate information. So I agree with Zach, but it's time for a public meeting, invite whoever wants to come, let them hear the facts and be able to answer their questions. Because I think what's out there is people are stewing around about we aren't supporting residential growth, and I don't think they have all the facts. And I think once they hear all the facts, I think we either change what we do to support if there's something we can do, or we give them the facts that they don't have. I agree with that. I think it's time, because the one negative thing I hear is this residential growth in CUB.
The perception is out there. I
The
had a
perception's
developer
out there.
tell me, you know, he's looking for property in Hardin Valley area.
Yeah,
And I asked about Clinton, he says, too hard to deal with.
yeah,
I'm gonna look
yeah.
there.
And I
And it
think,
may be the city that's hard to deal with.
yeah.
You know, we So that's why,
That's what I'm saying, I don't know if CUB's getting blamed for something that's not our fault, or it's just time to bring it out in the open, that
Put it
get the
to bed.
elephant, yeah, let's address it, let's get
It's,
it out there.
we
and
should
let's-
never be embarrassed about what we do, because if we are, we need to change it, you see? So the true statement is, we don't subsidize development. That's a true statement. We don't subsidize a developer at the expense of other ratepayers in order to advantage them because they bought 25 acres and they want to put houses up. Now, if they wanted to do that, and there is an argument that makes sense because housetops bring in taxpayers and sales tax goes up and property tax goes up, there is an argument that one could make where there is some degree of that would make sense, but it wouldn't come from the ratepayers of water and sewer or electric. It would come from the recipients of that, and that would be, it goes back to the taxing entity. If the county wants to have some type of a $1,000 tax incentive, we'll hold property tax for 2 years. They can do any of that they want, but one of the reasons our rates are so competitive, low, is because we don't do that for convenience or because someone is a powerful developer and they try to exert, and they have almost physical, that's been almost physical, that they want to get with us because we won't do what they're able to coerce others to do you see? And that's what I think much of this major frustration, because based on our policies, procedures, and practices and fees, we're great. But outside of that, if you want to inch outside of that, you're not going to get what some may just say, I'm just not going to mess with that guy. We always are up for that, are never intimidated or bullied into doing something outside of the scope of what we would do for the most timid person. And yes, I agree, however we want to work that, whatever information that we have to offer or work up or be a participant in, every good thing you can think of that could come out of that meeting, we're up for, and with no reservations at all.
Well, Greg, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn for the rest of us, but the board is behind you and the rest of the leadership team in treating everybody equal, whether they're the richest or the poorest. And we're I think, by the nods of the head, we're there, we're with you, we support you and CUB. It's just, as board members, we keep getting the same question over and over and over again. So it's time to address this and get the facts out, answer the whys. Why do you do this? Well, because of this, this, and this. And if there's wrong information circulating out there,
Oh, there's
I
definitely.
think we have a moral obligation to correct that. And then the last part of that, I think we need to say, okay, ask us your questions. The elephant's been walking in this room for a long time. Just ask the questions and let's hit it and put this thing to bed. And
Do we
forward.
have a body or a representative or a person who is available to a builder or an individual who wants to come in and get some help understanding the
Oh, yeah.
rules and the regulations
Yeah,
and the
and it's
process?
depending on what specifically area that if they got a problem with the sewer, if they've got a problem with the water, if they got a problem with the electric, however we do that, we take the time. This one individual that the most recent, we sent a letter to ask him if he would. If we would certainly make ourselves available. We spent over an hour one-on-one with him, and it really got down to, he had a pole that he had a problem with, you see, moving the pole. But we've had major developers where I know for a fact that with other utilities, I mean, they bury a water line 30 foot under the ground, 30 foot, because he's doing some excavation. We won't allow that because we can never get down and fix that. So we say, if you bury our water line 30 feet down, we're gonna have to relocate that and you're gonna have to pay for it. Because the ratepayer shouldn't have to pay for it, you see? Now, he gets that at the other utility for nothing. You say, they just don't say anything because it's not a problem until it's a problem. We say, we're not gonna kick that problem down the road to the next generation. When there's a problem with that water line, they're gonna have to replace the whole thing because they can't dig down 30 feet to get it. So those are the kind of issues that a developer will really get burnt with. We had a developer, he took his backhoe, lifted our manhole in order to drain his property, because it was low and it was filling up with water. So he took a backhoe, ripped off our sealed manhole so the water would drain down into our sewer line. So then we got the mud and you know, yeah, we sued him for that. And I'm telling you, he wasn't happy because we made him pay to have it put back on and the cost it had for us to clean the pumps all the way down with the mud in it. So there's no way at the end of the day, he's gonna say, Cub is a great place to work with, do you say? But factually, if you follow what everyone procedure's saying that you're supposed to, if you're held to that line, then we're as good or better than most as far as I know, and that's what I think we can bring to any roundtable discussion. Be happy to do.
I think at that meeting, I would emphasize the fact that we would be glad to sit down with somebody.
One-on-one.
And one-on-one and help you through the process.
Right.
Which we do on a regular basis.
Yeah, and I think too, you know, I would want to invite the Courier. Hopefully they would be there to cover it, because I think the more we can megaphone and correct the record and sort of let people know we are development friendly to a point. Where, you know, and I agree wholeheartedly in the way that I started to understand this since being on the board is some of that development is highly speculative. You know, okay, it looks great. You think everything's going to be great. Sure, all these housetops, you know, wonderful. And then you don't know when in 2008 an economic downturn happens, and we have, as citizens, as a board, as a utility, have fronted costs for a developer, then that invites disaster upon our house. And so why would we do that? It doesn't make sense to me, and I don't think it's fair for a developer to take advantage of the board. And you have to be, if you have to treat one as you do all.
Right.
We couldn't say, okay, we know you, yeah, we like this development, sure, we're going to forego
Right.
this, that, or the
Right.
other, but the next guy that shows up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel that it has to be equal application under the law, and we can't pick winners and losers. So, I mean, I wholeheartedly stand behind what we're doing. I just like to get that out.
I agree, and I think it's the why. And I think that's what you're saying, Zach. When we get here and we have our questions answered and we understand the why, then that makes a lot of sense. It's just people that aren't sitting on this table
Right.
once a month, they don't get all the whys answered.
In 21 days from now, when I'm at Hoskins Drug Store and somebody asks me a question, I go, I used to know that answer, but I don't know it right now. And it's just difficult. I'm not the subject matter expert.
Yeah.
But, so I would love to have that opportunity to be able to, anyway, we're all on board. What I think the next step, Greg, is I would like to do is get with Roger and help spearhead, okay? Because I'm also emphatic about this is not going to be a gotcha game. We're not going to walk into something and it turn into something that it's not intended to be.
Good.
I agree.
Okay, that's not what this is going to be. So that's why I said I want to have an agenda. I want to have it approved. I want to have everybody's input, and you can add, you know, well, we need to have some suggestions or some additions or some admissions. That's not something that's going to need to be talked about at this forum. Maybe that's another forum, but
Submitted questions would work well,
submitted questions as well.
because that would give you a chance to
Yes, that would
prepare
really be
and
good.
get everybody's heartburn.
And it may be
questions
something
answered.
that we don't do to the first quarter of 2019,
Yeah.
you know, but I think, I don't want to rush it, so I don't want to feel like there's nothing we're going to do before Halloween. And literally, it may be first quarter of 2019 to get this done right.
We're ready, and I think especially for those that don't have the intimate understanding and are not developers, when they just hear this rapid fire negativity because they're coming from a place to where they didn't get what they felt like they should, then and all we're going to do then is rely on what the facts show us. Then I think that's good, and that can all be clearly articulated and delineated on a piece of paper that we hand out like this. And here's what we do, and here's why we do it, and here's the steps that you have to go through. I think it would be a very positive thing.
And I think too, you hit on something I never really thought about before was, I think some of the noise is that single one-off person that said, well, I asked them to move a pole from here to there and they wouldn't do it. CUB won't help. They don't want development. Well, how much of that's out there?
Well, a vocal minority seems loud, and it may not be the majority. It's a vocal minority. So
I'm
let's-
telling you,
let's answer it.
if you took 5, I could give you names of 5. You took 5 out of the equation, you wouldn't have a ripple.
Well, let's
Those
address
5
it.
need to be at the meeting.
Well, I know, but let's address it. If you're
Yeah.
okay, Greg, let's.
Oh,
So I will, next steps, I'll get with the city manager at Clinton. I will try to put together some timelines and some agendas and shape it up. You know, we have 30,000 feet up. Let's get down a little smaller, a little more granular. And then I'll reach out to you, Greg, and we'll go from there. And
Perfect.
Keep everybody else informed.
How do you get this information out to the developer community?
Well, I think that we put it in the paper. I think that we, through word of mouth, I think we know certain developers, and we ask them, and specifically, we send out invitations. I mean, I have friends in the construction business, whether it's Denark or Blaine or Merritt, and we can talk to them and say, if you're interested, please come and please tell your friends. It's a small community. I mean, Greg's probably got these people on speed dial, and we can get the information to them.
You know, maybe too, Zach, I was thinking when you said that, it may need to be residential sellers, you know, those who sell property. If they're
I
out
agree.
there
I
wanting
mean,
to hear
you know,
some answers.
people like Les Sellers and
But not, I mean, I
realtors
didn't
or
mean,
builders.
I didn't
or-
mean them specific.
Sure,
I
but
just meant
local people in the
local
community
people, yeah.
that I think that's important because they help shape discussion. You know, you're talking about centers of influence that have discussions with builders, and I think they're a big part of it. I'm just not singling, you know, any one group out, but
Well,
sellers of houses is what I meant, not a company name.
You should never be defensive to the point that you're not open for the fact that there's things that you can do that, whether it's a perception or whether it is a function that you can do to improve
Sure.
the community of development. And we're not defending what we do. You say we're not defensive about what we do. We're open to every good thing, but we're very confident that what we do is really done and administered in such a way that it not only provides low cost, but it also provides equal distribution of how we apply the policies that we do.
Well, people's perception is their reality. So we need to bring the facts to the table with you all there that can answer the questions that the 5 of us can't answer. If that's what
and if
I'd
somebody
like to do.
comes up, I'm sure what I took from that statement is if somebody comes up and says, hey, I've got this brilliant suggestion.
Yeah,
And if it's brilliant
yeah,
and it makes sense and it doesn't cost our rate, hey, we're happy, we're open, we're
absolutely. I mean,
Two-way
absolutely.
street.
Sure.
Let's hear it.
and that's our attitude, you know.
That's always will be our attitude.
Right.
And if we do something wrong, we'll back up and fix it if we can. And going forward, we'll take the steps to make sure that doesn't happen anymore, you know. But if you live in Clinton and and you live at KUB, you're paying 116% more than the average customer is. I mean, that's just a fact. That's where it was in August of 2018. I mean, I don't know what it is now, but if you live in Norris, you're paying 102% more than what our folks are paying in the city of Clinton. You know, our tap fees are lower than anybody. So all of those things, I think we need to tout. And if we can ever get convicted of anything, other than in this room, because we try to do a good job at that, we don't promote ourselves outside of this room.
I agree.
And we should.
I agree.
We should.
And this will give us one of those opportunities.
It will, very public. Mhm.
To do so.
Well, the last thing I have is we have been talking, if you remember a year ago, our friends at ACWA in June of last year notified us that they wanted to go up on their wholesale rate from $1 to $1.50, and we batted that around for a while and until I showed them that we had a contract that didn't allow that, and it was their intention to breach, and they weren't. So we currently buy wholesale from ACWA at $1 a thousand gallons, and we sell to ACWA at $1 a thousand. It's reciprocal, and that goes through 2020. Now, what we didn't hear last year was they're saying that they were losing money. What we heard was that that's what they were charging Rocky Top, and they wanted to have the same rate across the board. And I said, that's fine, but you've got a contract with us, and we're going to leave it like it is. Well, within the last 2 or 2.5 months, they're now saying that they cannot meet our usage at the I-75 Industrial Park with how they're currently doing that, where their supply is insufficient, and they're worried that they will not be able to continue to meet our requirement there. So 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting, all of us in this room, and the staff, and we had a meeting with their consultant through Cannon & Cannon, who we have a lot of respect for, and our consultant through C2RL, which we have a lot of respect for. I had met with Larry Clowers, who is the manager, at a time before that, and the bottom line is, I shared with them for me to recommend to this board any amendment to the contract that some questions would have to be asked and answered. And part of that, and I told them, I wrote this down because these were my notes that I brought to the meeting. And a phrase that I said, it is not in the public's interest to disadvantage one ratepayer at the expense of another. It's not in our interest, nor do we want, nor would I recommend that we hold anybody's feet to the fire when they're losing money. So our ratepayers would be advantaged at the expense of their ratepayers. They wanted, and they talked to us about a rate that was based at $1.50 with a 10-cent depreciation charge associated and a 10-cent transmission charge, which brought it up to $1.70. I am comfortable with what it cost us for finished water at our plant is 73 cents. So to get from 73 to $1.70 is a jump. You know, how does that happen? I asked our consultant, and I worked internally to try to get a sense of the transmission costs. I want to know what it cost them, because once I determine that, I would be much more open to recommend to this board that we adjust the contract in order to keep them from losing money. One of the short-term fixes is to put a booster pump, since our pressures are different, that would be located right under the bridge by our plant, that would provide maybe 250,000 gallons a day, because they've got a 6-inch line going up the 4-lane. And that would give them some short-term relief on this ability to provide the quantity of water that's needed at the north end of the county. So we have what I see as a short-term fix. The long-term fix, which I told them it's my intention to run a new water main, because we're not anywhere across the river, we have to buy from them. I want to cross the river and go up the 4-lane to the interstate to eventually serve that area for potential growth for the city and annexation, and also to assure that our industrial park is being provided sufficient water. And in this, I mean, just to give you an idea of what it would be in terms of our rates compared to theirs for a major industrial user, and this is why it's such a big thing for us to make sure that we don't get away from. For ACWA, what they would charge $18,611 for a large user. We charge $6,659. It's 3 times. So when you get to $12,000 a month, 12 months a year, that's a tipper for some of these industrials. So that's why we want to make sure that the city, through CUB, controls water and wastewater at the I-75 Industrial Park. So now I've got Tim and our consultant working on an ARC grant and trying to get a grant. Realizing that we wanted to go up to the interstate, I understand that ACWA is also now looking for a grant to get up the interstate. Now, ARC is not going to give 2 grants for 2 utilities to go up the interstate. I'll tell you right now. So there is that out in the offing. What I want from the board is, it's my intention to continue to aggressively pursue, because they're aggressive in their asking, to aggressively pursue the numbers to get comfortable with what I think is a fair rate above, assuming that it is, and I believe it will be, above the contract price of $1 per thousand. So then I'll come back and recommend that to you. But I don't want to get ahead of myself if the board just wants to say, well, we've got a contract, let's hold on to it, and between now and the end of that contract, try to get us a water line up the 4-lane. That's an option, one that I would not be recommending because of the statement that I read to you. I am not comfortable with disadvantaging one public ratepayer at the advantage of another. So I think that they deserve to get a fair rate, but at the end of the day, Cub shouldn't be paying for poor management or loans or P&I that have to be out there anyway. So I have to get my arms around what is a fair cost, and you're going to have to take some of this admin and gen out, for example, because that's going to be there whether they're servicing us or not. Now, this new 250,000 gallon a day line that they go up, if it's exclusively for I-75 Industrial Park, I got a better feeling for the cost of that. So that's where I'm at. That's what I intend to do. I want to bring you up to speed and get the mood of the board to see if you agree that it is worth our while to try to zero down on what we think is a good rate, and I hope to bring that back to you as soon as next month. But I'm not 100% sure, since I don't have a lot of information from them on enough information, I guess, from them on getting comfortable with what I think is a fair rate.
I don't have any problem with striking a fair deal with them to make them whole, as long as it is a true fair deal. But I do think we really should pursue as aggressively as we can, having our own line up there.
I used the strongest language today in my vocabulary, and I have been in the service and overseas to try to articulate clearly that we need to move on that irrespective of what their understanding of what ACWA is going to do. You know, this is in our interest. I think it is imperative that we do this.
Yeah, matters of such as this, I mean, I really defer to your judgment, and, you know, that's, I'm not gonna, I don't, again, know enough about it to tell you otherwise, and I respect and rely upon your expertise and advising this board in such a way that we can digest it and then give you direction. But I would say continue your current path and your trajectory, and I'm supporting what your current positions are.
Great.
I agree with what's been said. Are you looking for a motion or
No.
just support?
No,
Okay, you
I
got support.
just
Just checking the temperature.
Yeah, because sometimes you get so far out of the wave, you get drowned. You know, I mean, why pursue a course when we do have a clear contract that we could hold to, given the fact that I believe that their costs exceed $1, now 1,000, I believe that, then I would be and I will recommend, once we determine what that real number is, and it'll be south of 170, by the way, what that real number is, and I will try to recommend and tell you why I think that is the fair thing to do. Back when they first came into business, we had a contract for life at 47 cents a thousand. 47 cents a thousand. And over the years, obviously, that got ridiculous. It was way under. And I worked with whatever it was, Anderson County, ACUB, at that time, and recommended to the board that we increase that to $1, because they were losing money at that time. We had a contract for life, you know, that was non-expiring. So it's not like we are ever trying to hold them up, because we're not. Fair is fair, and that's what we want to
And we're
be.
being good partners.
We are, in my opinion, although we're not perceived to be. We are,
But that's gonna change.
yeah, no, with them, we're not perceived.
Well, but I agree, that's gonna change. We're
Yes.
gonna change some of that.
I'm all about being professionally fair, and it sounds like that we all are, and I'd say move forward.
Yep.
Steve?
If we get into a contest on who's gonna build a water line up the 4-lane.
We'll win.
Is there a pecking order? I mean.
Now, we'll win.
Is that that confidence you were talking
Yeah, I
about?
tend to agree with him. I
Yeah,
think
we'll win. We'll win.
I think that's an important one, because that's, you know, that's where our growth is, and it's,
Now that's, I guess the city limits of Clinton goes up the 4-lane
Yeah.
to some distance on either side all the way to the interstate. So that is within our territory.
It is that we have ceded to ACWA, because they serve everything, all water, on the other side of the river. We're gonna build a water line up to the interstate. And we're gonna get as much money. I told them today, to give you a sense, in a nice way, I don't care if you have to get the music scholarship from Carson Newman to help pay for this thing. I want grant money. So that's where we're at.
when you do work out what you think is the good deal, will you tell us what the impact is?
Yes.
On our,
Well, I will, and it will impact
have
us.
Dudley tell us what the impact is.
Well, it's gonna impact us. What it's not gonna do right now is impact the industry, because we won't let it impact the industry.
Sounds good.
That's all I have.
Okay, Vicki, anything else?
I'm good.
Zach?
No, sir.
Any impact from the new bridge? They finally said we're gonna start digging on
Yeah.
CUB?
Well, Dan's trying to get some lines across there, you know, Ernie's trying to get light fixtures, the appropriate light fixtures across there. And since you brought that up about the flags, let me just tell you that when they talked to me, they got a very positive response, but although now I understand that they're thinking it's negative because we said we have to size these things. You know, you can't have flags that size
Right.
on these poles. They're not engineered for that. So it depends on what size you want, and it depends on how high do you want them. So the ball's back in their court, but I think that they just didn't hear put it whatever you want up.
You know, what they heard was you can't do it.
Yeah, well, the fact is, we, not only can you do it, we want you to do it, we support you doing it, we just can't give you permission to do something that's dangerous, because anything you can put up there on a sunny, unwinded day, but you have to size that thing and insurance and everything else, but that's got to go through, we gotta send it back through our engineers, not our engineers, the designers of the poles, to how high do you want it up? We had a problem when the city wanted to put those baskets up on Market Street. How high up the pole and how much do they weigh? Because it makes a difference, because they'll fall over, you know, in a wind. So,
I told them to get back with you that
yeah, I mean,
just,
I'm chairing a meeting of a veterans organization in town that has skin in the game on that, and so I will this month, actually next Monday, I will pass that along and tell them that.
I was Soldier of the Year in the Army, no joke.
Wow.
And there's nobody in Clinton that's more patriotic than I am. I mean, I
Well,
feel like,
it makes sense, and,
Yeah.
and I get it. Sometimes they just good initiative, bad judgment on some individual's part. I'll help square that judgment around and clear again the misunderstanding, and move forward. Because what I'm thinking is maybe a bracket with something that's doable, that's patriotic.
Yeah.
It's not going to be that flag.
Yeah.
But it could be something that gives an indication that this is the
how
veterans
much does
bridge.
it weigh and what does it, you know, they do a wind factor thing and right to the inch on the pole, the higher up, the smaller, you can do anything, you say.
Right.
But yeah.
Okay.
We're for it, not against it, but we're not for anything that's potentially
Going to cause a
safety
pole
hazard.
to fall down.
That's
and
right.
Kill somebody.
That's right.
lose power to the whole
Worst
county.
case scenario.
Right.
Okay, next month at our meeting, I'm going to bring forth a proposal, a recommendation that we do a salary survey for the purpose of developing documented compensation packages for our senior executives. This is, in my opinion, it's a positive thing. It's a weakness in our HR system that we have now that this is not covered. And it will just be a proposal that we can talk about, we can discuss, and we can decide to do it or not to do it. But just be prepared and get educated, and we'll do that next month. Anything else? Sure.
Thank you.